I've woken up in a world that wasn't mine. My life is now a script, a trashy corporate drama, to be exact, and I've been cast as the story's biggest loser, Leo Vance. The ultimate simp, the villainous stepping stone destined to be double-crossed by his own fiancée and her lover, stripped of his family fortune, abandoned by everyone, and left to freeze to death in an alley like a stray dog. Standing before me, his posture stooped in a tailored suit, is my assistant, Ethan Cole. He's nervously adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses as he delivers the news. Mr. Vance, we just got a tip. Ms. Reed, she's with Carter Sterling again. They've been in the Celestial Suite at the Sovereign Club for almost 3 hours now. Should I have the car brought around? His voice dwindled to a whisper, his eyes fixed on the floor, terrified of my reaction. A few lines of translucent text scrolled through my vision, a live feed of commentary only I could see, dripping with malicious glee. Here we go. The cuck just got the news alert. Go bust him, you coward. What's the point? He'll just stand there and watch. All simps can do is rage impotently. Get ready for the waterworks. Bust them? Waterworks? A cold, sharp grin I couldn't contain spread across my face. The original Leo would have swallowed it. But I have no intention of tolerating these two backstabbers. To Ethan's utter astonishment, I showed no signs of rage or distress. Instead, I calmly reached for the red intercom on my desk and pressed 3 digits. 911. What's your emergency? I'd like to make a report under my own name. At the Sovereign Club in Midtown, Celestial Suite, there's an illegal solicitation of prostitution taking place. Evidence: my associate saw them enter the room together, all over each other. They haven't come out in hours. Does that count? The live feed commentary seemed to choke for a second. Then it exploded. WTF? He called the cops. He actually called the cops. What is this plot twist? Am I hallucinating? The simp evolved. He evolved into a psycho. Isn't he afraid of what the Reed family will do? Afraid? I let out a quiet, contemptuous laugh. A bunch of entitled trash who don't know they're already dead. If they want to play games, I'll play. One news that Isabella Reed and Carter Sterling had been picked up by the cops spread like wildfire. I soon learned through back channels that the Reed family got the news almost instantly. After the initial shock and disbelief, the fury of the family patriarch, Marcus Reed, nearly melted the phone lines. He couldn't believe someone would dare to humiliate his family, his daughter, in such a public fashion. He immediately started pulling strings, placing a call directly to a high-ranking official in the city's police department. His tone was hard, laced with the unquestionable authority he was used to wielding. Let them go now. It was a misunderstanding at the club. My daughter doing something like that. Impossible. It was clearly a malicious, false report. To his complete surprise, the response he received wasn't the usual smooth deference. The voice on the other end was strained, laced with an almost imperceptible tension. Mr. Reed, it's not that we don't want to help. It's just, the person who filed the report it was Leo Vance. He filed it personally, using his name, and the Vance family. They've also made calls, insisting that this be handled strictly by the book. Our hands are tied. What? The Vances, Leo? Hearing the name, Marcus Reed froze. In the next instant, a furious wave of betrayal and defiance washed over him. He was so enraged he nearly smashed his phone against the wall. Leo Vance? That pathetic doormat who worshipped his daughter, who bowed and scraped before the Reed family. Did he grow a spine of steel overnight? How dare he call the cops on Isabella? How dare he use the Vance family's influence to block his attempts to get her released? This is insane. He's gone insane. Marcus Reed paced his study, his face a mask of thunderous rage, veins bulging on his forehead. What is the Vance family thinking? They want to start a war with us over this petty nonsense. Get Leo Vance on the phone for me now. He felt profoundly humiliated and was determined to make the arrogant little punk pay for his insolence. A few moments later, my personal cell phone began to vibrate violently. The name Marcus Reed flashed on the screen, pulsing with an impatient, accusatory anger. I let it ring a dozen times before casually answering, putting it on speaker for the benefit of Ethan, who was standing frozen nearby. The second the call connected, Marcus Reed's voice, distorted by a barely suppressed inferno of rage, blasted through the office. Leo, have you lost your goddamn mind? You called the police. What the hell are you trying to pull? I want you to drop the report right now. Tell your family to back the hell off, or so help me, I will. Or you'll what? I cut him off, my voice devoid of warmth, dripping with sarcasm. Marcus, you failed to raise your daughter properly. She's out there disgracing herself, behaving like common trash, and now the police are doing their job. Why are you yelling at me? Is this how the Reed family handles its business? You piece of... Marcus sputtered, his voice trembling with fury. Isabella was just confused. That sterling boy seduced her. You need to make this go away, right now. Otherwise, the partnership between our families. The partnership? I cut him off again, my tone hardening to ice, each word a hammer blow. Marcus, you listen to me, and you listen carefully. Right now, this isn't about you wanting to discuss a partnership with me. This is about Vance Industries, settling a score with you. My voice rose, filled with an unyielding pressure. My fiancée was screwing another man in a private club and got arrested for it. This incident has caused catastrophic damage to my family's reputation. I have become a laughingstock in our entire social circle. So, tell me, how are we going to settle this score? How is the Reed family going to compensate me for my damages? On the other end of the line, Marcus Reed's breathing hitched. He was stunned in his silence by my aggressive counteroffensive, by the complete and utter shredding of all pretense. He clearly never expected this kind of reaction. This was not the pliable simp he could manipulate at will. His righteous indignation was instantly smothered by my far more dominant and aggressive stance. You, he stammered for a moment, his tone involuntarily softening, a hint of panic and pleading creeping in. Leo, son, let's not be so harsh. It's a misunderstanding. It's all just a big misunderstanding. We can talk about this. Anything can be negotiated. The projects, the land deal. We can discuss it. Compensation. We can discuss that too. Just please, I'm begging you, get Isabella out of there first. She's never been through anything like this in her life. I'm asking you, as her father. Listening to his tone shift from apoplectic rage to a near-sobbing plea, all I felt was a cold, satisfying pleasure. After nearly half an hour of back and forth and difficult negotiations, Marcus Reed, as if his spine had been ripped out, spinelessly agreed to almost all of my harsh terms. Pulling out of the Hudson Yards Innovation Campus project, transferring the deed for the South Bronx Waterfront Development Project, and a $10 million payment for emotional damages. All this just to get his daughter released. With the Reeds handled, I hung up the phone and turned to my monitor, which displayed a real-time news feed. The Sterling family had also pulled some strings and successfully bailed out Carter. I did nothing to stop it. In fact, I secretly had my people smooth the process for them. Ethan, who had been holding his breath the entire time, witnessed everything. The way he looked at me now was completely different, a mixture of awe and utter disbelief. He hesitated, then asked cautiously, Mr. Vance, why did you let Carter Sterling off so easily? I leaned back in my chair, spinning a pen between my fingers, my gaze fixed on the bustling cityscape outside. My tone was as casual as if I were discussing the weather. You only dispose of a tool when it no longer has any use. Getting rid of him now would be letting him off too easy. And it would be a waste. Ethan flinched slightly and immediately lowered his head. Yes, Mr. Vance, I understand. The live feed commentary had gone completely insane, its tone now one of reverent awe. The tool theory. Holy crap, Leo's playing 4D chess. So Carter is just another pawn. He not only took a huge bite out of the Reeds, but he's also keeping Sterling in play for later. The calculation, the ruthlessness. I totally underestimated the simp. Leo is a god. Voice crack. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vance. I take back everything I ever said. I watched the comments scroll by, the cold smile on my lips deepening. Isabella, Carter, the game is just beginning, and I will collect the debt you owe me with interest. A few days passed in deceptive calm. Sitting in the CEO's office on the top floor of the Vance Industries Tower, I emotionlessly reviewed the initial transfer documents for the projects the Reeds were forced to surrender. The profits from that little 911 call were flowing steadily into my company's coffers. But I knew the peace was temporary. A snake once struck doesn't just slink away. Sure enough, bang! The heavy, solid wood door to my office was thrown open with such violent force it was closer to being kicked in. The deafening crack echoed in the room as the door slammed into the wall and bounced back, a testament to the visitor's unbridled fury. Standing in the doorway was Isabella Reed, fresh from her enriching experience at the police precinct. It looked like she hadn't even bothered to go home, perhaps in a desperate attempt to cling to the pride I had so thoroughly shattered. She was still wearing the same expensive dress, now wrinkled and tired. Her makeup was still flawless, but it couldn't hide the bloodshot rage in her eyes or the manic energy radiating from her. Her long hair was a mess, with a few strands stuck to her sweat-slicked forehead. The moment she saw me, her eyes blazed with a venomous hatred, as if she wanted to tear me apart with her bare hands. "Leo! Vance!" She screamed my name as she charged into the room like a torpedo, her high heels clacking sharply on the marble floor. She completely ignored my secretary, who was trailing behind her in a panic. "You animal! You piece of human garbage! How could you? How could you do that to my father? How could you do that to our family?" She slammed her hands on my polished desk, leaning forward, her chest heaving with rage, spit flying from her mouth. "You called the cops on me. You let me be humiliated in a holding cell. And then you forced my father to sign that. That unconditional surrender. What the hell are you? You're nothing but a dog I keep on a leash. A pathetic simp who comes when he's called." The more she yelled, the more unhinged she became, her voice so shrill it could have shattered glass. She waved her arms wildly, her once beautiful face twisted into an ugly, snarling mask of pure malice. "You think this makes you a big man? Huh? Let me tell you something, Leo. Without the Reeds, Vance Industries is nothing. You will always be that pathetic loser, begging me on your knees just to look at you. You're trash." As her tirade reached its peak, she seemed to decide that words were no longer enough. She suddenly raised her hand and swung it viciously toward my face. It was a practiced, arrogant motion, as if she had done it countless times before and the original Leo had never once dared to fight back. The live feed commentary lit up with manic excitement. "Oh, the main boss has arrived. Here we go. The shrew is on the warpath. If that slap lands, you gonna take that, Leo? Take it." In a split second before her palm could connect with my cheek, I moved, fast as lightning. My right hand shot out and clamped down on her wrist, intercepting the blow with pinpoint accuracy. The force of my grip was so immense that Isabella cried out in pain, her wrist feeling as if it were caught in a steel vise on the verge of shattering. Let go of me, you bastard!" she shrieked, her other hand instinctively coming up to claw at my face. My eyes narrowed. I twisted the wrist I was holding sharply in the opposite direction, simultaneously using my left hand to block her other arm. Using her own momentum against her, I gave her a violent shove to the side. Isabella was no match for my strength. She lost her balance completely, stumbling sideways with a terrified scream. The heel of her expensive shoe caught on the floor and snapped with a sharp crack. She crashed to the ground with a pathetic thud, toppling a small glass display case next to her. Crash! The sound of shattering glass was sharp and jarring as the crystal awards inside scattered across the floor. Isabella landed in a heap amidst the broken glass and debris. Her arms and legs were instantly scored with bloody scratches. Her dress was torn, and her hair fell completely loose, making her look like a discarded, trampled doll. She clutched her throbbing wrist, tears of pain welling in her eyes. She looked up at me, her expression a mixture of agony, shock, and profound disbelief. She simply could not comprehend how the man standing before her, cold, ruthless, and brutally efficient, could possibly be the same Leo Vance who used to tremble if she raised her voice. I looked down at her pathetic state without a flicker of emotion, except for a vague desire to laugh. What kind of super simp was the original Leo, to fall to pieces over a woman like this, all polish on the outside and rotten to the core, a creature whose only skills were throwing tantrums and scheming? His taste and intelligence were truly a spectacle of human folly. I stood over her, casually adjusting the cuff of my suit jacket, which had been slightly askew. My eyes were filled with undisguised disgust and contempt, as if I were looking at a pile of particularly nauseating garbage. "Are you done screaming? Done hitting?" Is that all you've got? Besides throwing a fit like a lunatic, what else can you do? My deeply insulting words and dismissive gaze made Isabella tremble with fury. She struggled to get up, but the pain in her ankle and the shards of glass on the floor caused her to fall again, making her look even more wretched. She craned her neck, the hatred in her eyes almost tangible. Leo, I hope you die a horrible death. I will never let you get away with this. The Reed family will never let you get away with this. The Reeds? I scoffed, the disdain in my voice undisguised. I forgot to mention, everything you're wearing, everything you own, even the continued existence of the Reed family, depends entirely on my mood. And how exactly will you not let me get away with this? With that mouth of yours that does nothing but spew filth. I had no more time to waste on her. I pressed the intercom button, my voice cold and merciless. Security, get up here immediately. A stray dog has wandered into my office and is disturbing the peace. Get out of here. Yes, Mr. Vance. The reply came instantly. Moments later, two tall, stone-faced security guards rushed in. I pointed a finger at Isabella, who was still on the floor, her face turning purple with rage at being called a stray dog. Drag her out. Throw her out of the building, I said with detached authority, and notify the front desk and all security posts. This woman and any other direct members of the Reed family are permanently banned from entering the Vance Industries tower. Understood, Mr. Vance. The guards moved forward without hesitation, grabbing Isabella by each arm as she screamed and struggled. Let go of me, you lowlife rent-a-cops. Get your filthy hands off me. Leo, you wouldn't dare. My father will destroy you. Isabella kicked, thrashed, and screamed insults, her hair a tangled mess, her makeup smeared with tears, a complete caricature of her former self. The guards, impassive, tightened their grip, practically lifting her off the ground as they dragged her unceremoniously toward the door. One of her broken heels was left behind on the floor. Her dress rode up during the struggle, revealing a bruised ankle and scraped legs. She was a picture of pathetic comedy. The live feed commentary reached a fever pitch, like water hitting a grease fire. OMG, he's literally throwing her out. Yes, this is so satisfying. I could watch this on a loop. Leo, time to take out the trash. JPG, the louder she screams, the better it feels to see her dragged away. The simp has awoken. He's a beast. The level of humiliation. 10 out of 10. No notes. Leo. 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 The office door closed again, cutting off the sound of Isabella's fading screams. I surveyed the wreckage. The shattered glass, the overturned display case, a single, forgotten earring glinting on the floor. I frowned. Get housekeeping up here. I want this entire area sterilized. And replace everything she touched. Yes, Mr. Vance. Ethan had reappeared at the doorway, his voice filled with a newfound reverence. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. Soon, I saw two guards unceremoniously dump the struggling, screaming Isabella out of the tower's revolving doors. She fell hard onto the cold concrete sidewalk, drawing stares of curiosity, contempt, and amusement from the passing crowd. She scrambled to her feet, disheveled and tear-streaked, pointing up at the tower, seemingly still screaming curses in my direction, though I couldn't hear a thing. Finally, under the weight of dozens of stairs, she fled, limping away like a cornered animal. I turned away from the window, my expression cold as ice. That was just the down payment. The real show was yet to come. Being thrown out of the Vance Industries tower like a piece of trash was the final straw that broke Isabella's sanity. Humiliation, rage, and the terror of losing everything festered inside her, twisting her heart into a venomous knot. She was not about to go down without a fight. A few days later, in the most private room of an exclusive, members-only restaurant, Isabella waited. She was dressed to kill in a black dress that hugged her curves, her makeup expertly applied to hide any lingering signs of her ordeal. But the old arrogance in her eyes was gone, replaced by the desperate, calculating glint of someone making a final, desperate gamble. She nervously fiddled with her napkin. The door opened, and Carter Sterling walked in. He still had a bandage on his head, and his face was a little pale, but he was dressed in a flamboyant pink shirt, trying to project his usual suave demeanor. A lingering fear of me, however, could still be seen in the depths of his eyes. Bella. Carter's face lit up. He hurried over, his voice a mixture of concern and a touch of self-satisfaction. Are you okay? I was so worried. That psycho Leo, he actually... Carter. Isabella burst into tears before he could finish, throwing herself into his arms. Her body trembled as she sobbed, a masterful performance of vulnerability. I was so scared. So scared. Leo, he's not human. She looked up, her eyes shimmering with tears, and showed him the faint bruises on her wrist where I had grabbed her. Her voice was thick with manufactured fear and injustice. He hit me. He called the cops on us. And now he's trying to bankrupt my family. Carter, what are we going to do? She expertly twisted the narrative, painting herself as the ultimate victim and me as a cruel, relentless tyrant. Seeing her tear-stained face and feeling her soft body pressed against his, Carter's lingering fear of me was instantly replaced by a swelling sense of protectiveness and vanity. He hugged her tightly, his voice filled with righteous indignation. That bastard, that animal, don't worry, Bella. I'm here. I will make him pay for this. Really, Carter? Isabella looked up, her eyes shining with hope and admiration. She squeezed his hand, her voice a seductive, goading whisper. Leo is completely unhinged now. He won't stop until he's destroyed both of us. The only way we survive is if we work together. I know so much about the Vance family's inner workings. I know his weaknesses. If we team up, we can crush him, and when we do, everything that belongs to the Vances will be ours. Her words were poison, laced with irresistible temptation. Staring at the beautiful woman in his arms and picturing the vast Vance fortune within his grasp, Carter's brain short-circuited. He nodded emphatically. Yes, Bella, whatever you say, let's do it. Let's team up and destroy that son of a bitch. They embraced, clinging to each other as if they were the world's most loyal allies, and began whispering their plans, their faces illuminated by greed. They had no idea. This private room had been arranged by me through one of my subsidiary companies. Behind the decorative painting on the wall and inside the base of the floral centerpiece, a high-definition pinhole camera and microphone were broadcasting their every word, every expression, in real time to my office computer, miles away. I leaned back in my chair, swirling a glass of red wine, watching the cheap, greedy performance on the screen as if it were a low-budget play that had nothing to do with me. The live feed commentary was already scrolling. There it is, the unholy alliance. This woman deserves an Oscar for that performance. Is Carter really this dumb? He's being played like a fiddle again. Leo is a genius, real-time surveillance. Record it all. This is Exhibit A. On the screen, Isabella received a call. It seemed there was another emergency at the Reed Company. She had to leave in a hurry, but not before giving Carter a long, passionate kiss to seal their pact. Now, Carter was alone in the room. He swirled his wine, a smug, triumphant smile on his face, already fantasizing about the glorious future that awaited him after he had dismantled Vance Industries. Just then, the door to the room opened silently. I walked in, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit, a faint, mocking smile on my lips. Carter heard the door and turned, thinking Isabella had returned. What, did you forget some? The words died in his throat. The moment he saw me, his smile froze, contorting into a mask of pure shock and disbelief. The wine glass nearly slipped from his hand. He looked as if he'd seen a ghost, scrambling to his feet, his body tensing in a defensive posture. His eyes darted around, filled with alarm and confusion. Leo Vance, what are you doing here? You seem to be in a good mood, Carter. I ignored his question, taking a seat on the sofa opposite him as if I owned the place. Did you enjoy your little meeting with Ms. Reed? Carter's face paled, his eyes flickering nervously as he tried to feign composure. What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. I'm warning you, this is a private room. Get out. Now. Get out. I chuckled softly, leaning forward slightly, my gaze locking onto him like a cold, penetrating searchlight. Before we discuss my departure, why don't you take a look at this? As I spoke, I nodded to Ethan, who had followed me in like a shadow. Ethan stepped forward and tossed a slim folder onto the coffee table in front of Carter with a sharp slap. Carter's eyes darted from the folder to me, then back again. Hesitantly, he reached out and opened it. The instant he saw the first page, his pupils contracted violently. It was a page of confidential financial data from one of his family's core projects. It even included records of shady, off-the-books transactions his father had orchestrated, details that even he wasn't fully privy to. He began flipping through the pages, faster and faster, his face growing paler with every turn. His fingers started to tremble. The file contained even more damning information. Records of Isabella secretly investigating the Sterling family's internal affairs, and even transcripts of her calls with unknown parties, discussing how to use Carter as a pawn to eventually consume the Sterling family's assets. The documents were a carefully crafted mix of truth and fabrication. Some of it was genuine dirt Ethan had dug up based on my knowledge from the original novel. The rest was skillfully forged evidence I had commissioned. Woven together, they created an undeniable narrative. Isabella had never cared for him. She was using him, and the Sterling family was her next target. This is impossible. These are forgeries. You're trying to frame Bella. Carter roared, his eyes bloodshot, but his voice lacked conviction, trembling with a dawning, horrifying realization. He recognized too many of the details about his family's business. Details Isabella had indeed casually asked him about. Forgeries? I laughed, my tone laced with pity. Carter, use that brain of yours for something other than chasing women for a minute. Think about who Isabella is. She's a woman who cheats on her fiancé, blames her lover when they get caught, and would crawl on her knees to save her own family's fortune. Do you really believe she loves you enough to help you take me down, just to share the spoils? My words were like poison needles, piercing his fragile ego. She got close to you because her target was never just Vance Industries. It was the Sterling family, too. You are nothing more than a convenient weapon in her hands, a stepping stone. And once she's done with you, what do you think your fate will be? Do you think she'll be any kinder to you than I'm being to her? Carter began to shake violently, a vein throbbing in his temple. His eyes were a storm of confusion, betrayal, and white-hot rage. He replayed Isabella's tearful performance in his mind, contrasted it with the cold, hard evidence in his hands, and the entire foundation of his trust in her crumbled into dust. That bitch, that venomous bitch. He hurled his wine glass against the floor, where it shattered, spattering red wine across the carpet. He paced the room like a caged animal, letting out a roar of pure, undiluted fury. The live feed went wild. He snapped, total mental breakdown. Ha, the trust shredder at work. Leo's divide and conquer strategy is beautifully toxic. I love it. Poor Carter. But also, he deserved it. Waiting for the dog-eat-dog bloodbath. I would pay to see Isabella's face when she finds out. Seeing his hatred fully ignited, I knew the time was right. So, I said, leaning back into the sofa, are we ready to talk about a partnership? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Reed family is a big prize, and frankly, I don't have the appetite to eat it all myself. Are you interested in splitting it? Carter's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes locked on mine, his chest heaving. Fueled by a potent cocktail of rage and greed, he didn't hesitate. He ground out a single word through clenched teeth. Done. I smiled faintly and raised the fresh glass of wine Ethan had poured for me in a toast. Carter grabbed a new glass, his hand still trembling with rage, and clinked it hard against mine. The sound was crisp, sharp, and filled with the promise of conspiracy. Forging a fragile, self-serving alliance with Carter didn't mean I let my guard down. Isabella was a cornered snake, and she would strike back with everything she had, using the methods she thought would hurt me most. I had already laid my trap. I was just waiting for her to step into it. Sure enough, after a few days of quiet, a media tsunami aimed at Vance Industries erupted out of nowhere. Isabella had clearly liquidated the last of the Reed family's connections and resources, possibly even mortgaging personal assets, for one last, desperate attack. It started with a few influential financial blogs and FinTwit accounts simultaneously publishing articles, vaguely alluding to a prominent Vance family enterprise facing severe product quality issues and suspected financial fraud, hinting that the corporate giant was a beautiful facade hiding a rotten core. Then the attack intensified. More so-called concrete evidence was released. Skillfully forged internal quality control reports with fake stamps showed that a flagship Vance Industries product had failed multiple safety and quality standards. Altered and out-of-context financial data screenshots suggested the company's cash flow was strained, with massive hidden losses. There were even anonymous interviews with supposed former employees who tearfully exposed the company's exploitative labor practices and chaotic management. Hashtag Vance Product Scandal, hashtag Vance Industries Fraud, hashtag The Truth About Leo Vance, the explosive hashtags, pushed by an army of bots and paid influencers, shot to the top of Twitter's trending topics. The public, easily swayed by sensational headlines, erupted in a chorus of outrage and suspicion. The Vance Industries official website and social media pages were instantly flooded with hate. When the stock market opened, our stock price immediately dipped. It wasn't a crash, but the downward trend was concerning. The live feed commentary was on edge. Here it comes, Isabella's revenge. Damn, this woman is terrifying when she's desperate. That's a lot of evidence. You sure Vance Industries is clean? Don't panic, it's obviously all fake. Have faith in Leo, he's got this. But the stock is actually dropping. I'm getting nervous. In my office, Ethan stood grimly before a large screen, reporting on the real-time social media metrics and stock fluctuations. Mr. Vance, the narrative is spreading fast. They've invested heavily. Should we issue an official denial immediately? Or activate the emergency PR protocol? I remained on the sofa, not even glancing at the sea of red on the stock ticker. I was calmly brewing a pot of tea, my voice perfectly steady. What's the rush? Let her dance. The more cards she plays now, the harder she'll lose later. I took a sip of tea, my eyes cold as I looked at the trending topics Isabella had bought. Proceed with the plan. For every piece of evidence she releases, we release a clarification. Yes, sir, Ethan replied, a flicker of excitement in his eyes. And so, a magnificent game of whack-a-mole began. Every time Isabella's team dropped a new bombshell, the official Vance Industries accounts would, within minutes, post a more detailed, official, and irrefutably authentic document that completely debunked it. That fake quality control report? We released the real one, showing top marks in every category, complete with a link to the certification from a national standards agency. Those doctored financial screenshots? We published our audited quarterly report, certified by a Big Four accounting firm, showing healthy cash flow and steady profit growth. Those disgruntled former employees? Their real identities were exposed as professional trolls for hire. One of them even went live on Instagram, admitting he'd been paid by the Reed family to lie. Every handful of mud Isabella threw not only failed to stick, but splattered right back in her own face. The live feed commentary was euphoric. The clapback is so fast and brutal. What a reversal. Vance Inc. is a machine. Is Isabella trying to be funny? Her fake evidence is pathetic. Told you it was a smear campaign. Leo is a legend. Look at that response time. Isabella sat in front of her computer, watching her meticulously planned assault get dismantled with humiliating ease. She was trembling with rage, her face ashen. What is happening? She shrieked in her phone. How are they so prepared for everything? Do we have a mole? She couldn't possibly know that the insider information she was using was mostly outdated tidbits the original Leo had carelessly let slip. One of the first things I did upon arrival was plug every one of those security holes. Combined with Carter's secret cooperation, her entire hand was made up of junk cards from the start. Just as Isabella was losing control and public opinion was swinging decisively in our favor, the true killing blow landed. Carter Sterling, her most trusted ally, called a press conference. In front of a wall of cameras, Carter, dressed in an expensive suit, his hair perfectly styled, put on a grave and furious expression. He spoke into the microphones, his voice ringing with righteous fury. I feel it is my moral duty to stand here today and expose the true nature of Isabella Reed. His voice boomed through the speakers. She is a woman of bankrupt morals, who has not only disgraced herself personally, but will stop at nothing to seize the assets of Vance Industries. This entire smear campaign is a conspiracy orchestrated by her. She even attempted to steal corporate secrets from my own family, the Sterlings, in a depraved attempt to destroy both our companies. He presented carefully selected pieces of evidence, enough to prove Isabella was investigating his family, but conveniently omitting his own role in their partnership. He had successfully reinvented himself as an innocent victim who had seen the light and was bravely exposing the truth. That backstab from her ally was the final, fatal blow. It shattered what little was left of Isabella's credibility. The media exploded. HOLY plot twist. So it was Isabella behind it all. She was trying to take down both families at once. The saying is true. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And this woman is the devil. Hashtag Isabella Reed conspiracy. Hashtag toxic lies. And hashtag apologize to Vance Industries trended globally, completely burying her fabricated hashtags. The Reed Corporation's already fragile reputation was annihilated. Business partners issued statements severing all ties, banks called in their loans, and suppliers mobbed their headquarters demanding payment. The Reed Corp. Stock didn't just drop, it imploded. It went into a free fall, so catastrophic it was immediately halted. Overnight, the Reed empire ceased to exist. Isabella sat in a trashed room, her computer screen filled with images of her family's stock chart and Carter's smug, righteous face. Her eyes were vacant, her skin a deathly gray. Her body was racked with uncontrollable tremors. She couldn't understand how it had all gone so wrong. How had her perfect plan crumbled so spectacularly? And Carter. How could Carter betray her? Awa. A desperate, soul-shattering scream tore from her throat as she swept everything off her desk, the computer, the papers, all of it, sending it crashing to the floor. She collapsed in a heap, her body devoid of strength, and broke into racking, hysterical sobs, her tears of despair and disbelief smearing across her twisted face. The live feed commentary erupted in a final, triumphant celebration. "It's over. The Reeds are finished. Ha ha ha, glorious day." Carter's backstab was a masterpiece of treachery. Leo Vance, the Grandmaster, winning without ever leaving his office. The counterplay, the reversals. I've got chills. All hail Leo Vance. The entire live feed stands up and bows. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of my office, looking out over the city. On the monitor behind me, the stock ticker for the Reed Corporation was a flat, dead line of gray. Ethan reported from my side. "Mr. Vance, the Reed Corporation is beyond saving." As for the Sterlings, Carter is actively absorbing the remnants of the Reed assets. He seems very pleased with himself. I said, my face showing no joy, only a chilling calm. The praying mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it. "Carter, you really think you're the one who won? Your part in this play is over, too?" Carter Sterling returned to his family's estate, feeling more triumphant than he ever had in his life. The Reed Corporation was a fat prize, and while Leo had taken the prime cuts, the leftovers were more than enough to elevate the Sterling family's power and influence. He sat in his father's study, swirling a glass of brandy, a smug grin on his face. He was already dreaming of a future where he might even surpass Leo Vance himself. But before that grin could fully form, the hammer fell. The blow was a precision-guided missile, aimed directly at the heart of the Sterling Empire. Several of the world's most reputable financial news outlets simultaneously published bombshell investigative reports. They laid out, with irrefutable proof, years of systematic financial fraud, illegal insider trading, and several major safety incidents, some involving fatalities, that the Sterling Corporation had covered up with massive payoffs. The evidence was horrifyingly complete. Encrypted internal emails, secret meeting recordings, and even sworn video testimony from key whistleblowers. The attack was swifter and far more lethal than the one that had dismantled the Reeds. The Sterling Corporation, a giant built on a foundation of lies, didn't just crumble, it vanished in a landslide. Their stock didn't just fall, it ceased to exist, delisted after a series of catastrophic, circuit-breaking plunges. Banks and creditors descended like sharks smelling blood. Business partners fled, and federal investigators swarmed their headquarters, sealing the building on the spot. The smile froze and died on Carter's face. The color drained from his cheeks. He sat paralyzed, watching the numbers representing his family's entire net worth evaporate on the screen, listening to the distant wail of sirens and the sounds of chaos from downstairs. He was plunged into an icy abyss, his mind a complete blank. No, impossible. This can't be happening. He shot up from his chair as if he'd been electrocuted, slamming his fists on the desk and screaming at his staff. Find out. Find out who's doing this, who is trying to destroy us. The answer was already obvious. All the evidence, every leak, every whistleblower, traced back to one impossibly obvious source. Leo Vance. Leo Vance? Carter's eyes turned crimson. A primal roar of pure hatred ripped from his throat as the last thread of his sanity snapped. He shoved his aides aside and stormed out of the house, driving like a madman straight for the Vance Industries tower. He had lost all semblance of the suave, sterling air. His hair was a mess, his suit was wrinkled, and his face was a greasy, tear-streaked mask of terror and rage. He hammered on the door of my office like a feral animal. "Leo, open this door. Come out here, you son of a bitch. Was it you? Tell me to my face, why? I thought we had a deal." His voice was a raw, broken rasp of desperation. The door opened. I stood there, with Ethan a stone-cold presence behind me. I looked down at his utterly broken state with placid, emotionless eyes. "Leo, why? Tell me why. We were supposed to carve up the reeds together. Why would you go back on your word? Why would you come after my family?" Carter screamed, lunging forward to grab my suit. I took a half step back, easily avoiding his filthy hands. My gaze was cold, as if I were observing a particularly pathetic insect. "What?" I repeated the word softly, a humorless smile touching my lips. My voice was quiet, but it cut through his hysteria like a razor. "Carter, you've been in this world for a while. Did no one ever teach you?" I leaned in, the pressure of my presence seeming to suck the air from the room. "This is a battlefield, and on the battlefield, do you need a reason to eliminate the enemy? Or, to put another way," I continued, "when you clear a piece from the board, do you need to explain yourself to the piece?" Carter froze. His eyes widened, the last flicker of hope extinguished, consumed by an endless, suffocating darkness. He understood. In my eyes, he was never a partner. He was never an ally. He was just a pawn, a piece to be used and then discarded. Thump! His legs gave out from under him. He collapsed to his knees on the cold marble floor. Tears and snot streamed down his face as he let out a guttural, desperate wail. "Mr. Vance, Leo, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you, have mercy. Spare my family. Everything I took from the Reeds, it's all yours, my family's assets. You can have them too. Just leave us with something. I'll do anything. Please." He was sobbing, trying to crawl forward to grab my legs. At that exact moment, the elevator doors dinged open. Isabella Reed, looking just as haggard and haunted, like a specter of her former self, rushed out. When she saw Carter kneeling on the floor, a flash of satisfaction crossed her face, only to be immediately replaced by an even greater terror. Without a moment's hesitation, she too fell to her knees. She began slamming her forehead against the floor, the dull thuds echoing in the hallway. "Leo, I was the bitch. I was arrogant and stupid. I deserved it. Punish me however you want. Just please let the Reed family go. It's over. They're no threat to you anymore. Please, just let them live. I'll be your slave. I'll do anything you want for the rest of my life. Please." The once proud heirs of the Reed and Sterling families were now kneeling side by side at my feet like stray dogs, begging for scraps, their dignity shattered into a million pieces. The live feed was a torrential flood of comments. They kneeling. They're both on their knees. This isn't just winning. This is psychological warfare, the ultimate humiliation. That line about the chessboard. Ice cold. Leo is a legend. You reap what you sow. This is so satisfying, my God. This is what happens when you cross Leo Vance. I stared down at the two pathetic messes at my feet, feeling nothing. I slowly crouched down, my gaze drifting over their tear-streaked, terrified faces. Then I took out my phone. I typed a few words on the screen and then turned it to face them. The screen displayed a single, cold, and impersonal command. "Take care of him, or." Then my eyes moved slowly deliberately from Carter's face to Isabella's and back again. Finally, I raised my hand and drew my thumb slowly across my throat. The gesture was slow, deliberate, and universally understood. It was a death sentence. Kneeling on the floor, both Isabella and Carter flinched as if they'd been tasered. In that instant, the primal instinct for survival overrode everything else. They looked up, not at me, but at each other. The pleading and terror in their eyes were gone, replaced by the raw, naked, murderous intent of two animals trapped in a cage, knowing only one would walk out alive. I said nothing more. I stood, nodded to Ethan, and turned back to my office. The heavy, soundproof door swung shut, sealing me off from the two venomous, desperate glares now locked on each other. After stumbling away from the Vance Tower, the fear in Carter's heart was quickly consumed by a more powerful mix of hatred and despair. Leo Vance wanted him dead. He couldn't just wait for it to happen. There was only one option. He retreated to a safe house, pacing like a caged animal, his eyes wild. Finally, with a trembling hand, he found a number in an encrypted contact list, a middleman who handled dirty work. His voice was dry and hoarse with terror. "It's me, Carter. I need someone taken care of. Yes, make it look like an accident. Money is no object. Half now, half on completion." He practically spat Isabella's name and address into the phone, as if the act itself could banish his own fear. After hanging up, he collapsed onto the sofa, gasping for air, his face a twisted mask of viciousness and anxiety. He never imagined that Isabella would have the exact same idea, and that she would be faster. She had nothing left to lose, which made her far more ruthless. With the last of her hidden jewelry and the lingering power of her beauty, she easily bought the loyalty of one of Carter's new, greedy bodyguards. That evening, as Carter anxiously awaited news in his supposed safe house, the compromised bodyguard brought him a glass of wine laced with a massive dose of a powerful sedative. Distraught and distracted, Carter drank it without a second thought and soon slumped into unconsciousness on the sofa. Once he was out, the bodyguard quietly opened the door. Isabella, who had been lying in wait, slipped in like a phantom. She looked at the helpless man on the sofa, her eyes devoid of hesitation, filled only with a burning hatred and the desperate will to live. She picked up the ornate letter opener Carter kept on his coffee table, clenched her jaw, and plunged it into his chest again and again and again. Warm blood splattered her face and clothes, but she didn't seem to notice, stabbing wildly, blindly, until Carter was completely still. In the Vance Industries tower, I stood at the window, listening to Ethan's final report on the liquidation of the Reed and Sterling assets. My phone buzzed. It was an encrypted message from Ethan. I opened it. It was a video file. I downloaded and played it. The camera work was shaky, but the image was clear. It was security footage from Carter's safe house, showing Isabella's entry, the brutal attack, and her panicked escape, all captured from multiple angles. I watched her frenzied movements and Carter's lifeless body with the same detached calm as one might watch a nature documentary. There was no pity, no satisfaction, only a cold, clinical indifference. It was the inevitable, self-inflicted end to their story. Without hesitating, I copied the file and anonymously forwarded it to the NYPD's public tip line. I also included Isabella's likely hiding place. 10 Isabella Reed was arrested at a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. When they found her, she was still wearing the blood-stained clothes, her eyes vacant and crazed. Carter Sterling's death was officially ruled a homicide. With their families bankrupt and their children either dead or imprisoned, Marcus Reed and the elder Sterling patriarch were completely broken. They aged decades overnight. They tried to beg for a meeting, kneeling at the front desk of my tower, pleading for just enough to live out their final years, but they were escorted out by security and vanished from public life forever. Vance Industries, playing the role of a corporate savior, easily absorbed all the valuable assets, supply chains, and talent from both fallen empires. My own commercial dynasty expanded at an unprecedented rate. I stood on the top floor of my newly expanded empire, looking out of a larger window at the glittering expanse of the city below, a city that was now, in large part, mine. As I surveyed the river of headlights flowing through the urban canyons, a faint smile touched my lips. Game over. The live feed commentary exploded in a final, dazzling firework display of celebration that went on and on. Congratulations, Leo, on your ultimate victory. Series finale. The greatest power fantasy ever written. I kneel before Leo. The strategy, the absolute dominance. Leo is king. Voice crack.